You're listening to Hoedown History, where we explore the history and legends of America's old-time and bluegrass music. So the old-time and bluegrass world has a bunch of songs about mules, and this one even made an appearance on the Andy Griffith Show. But I remember the first time I heard this song, I was at a local jam, and I had never played it before. And right away, I was just totally lost. I couldn't find the right notes or even the chords anywhere. You see, no one ever mentioned to me that this song actually changes keys in the middle of the song. It's one of a handful of songs that actually shifts keys, and that wasn't the only thing throwing me off either. The rhythm felt awkward, and not like the usual rhythm of most old-time and bluegrass tunes. And there is a good reason for that, and it has to do with the song's origin. And this one has a surprising source, found in another genre of music from a very far away place. So stick around, because we'll discuss these origins and we'll even listen to some source recordings from these faraway places. And one of them, I'm warning you now, may have come from a country you'll never guess. It's totally wild, like the wildest source origin ever on this channel. But first, let's dive into a legendary recording made from an American fiddler. You're listening to a legendary recording of Flop-Eared Mule, performed by this man, Emmett Lundy. Lundy was born on May 9, 1864, one of 9 children, born and raised in the mountain area of Grayson County, Virginia, on land that his family had owned since the 1700s. He began playing the fiddle in his late teens, taking up with an older fiddler named Green Leonard, who was considered then and even today a legend, and one of the best there ever was in all of Grayson County. Now, Leonard was an old man when Lundy met him, born sometime in the early 1800s, and Lundy learned basically all of his fiddling from this very one man. And even though Emmett's recordings are from the 1940s, many music researchers study his playing to get a glimpse of what Appalachian fiddle music may have sounded like from before the Civil War. Now, according to Lundy, he had to work pretty hard for these lessons with the old man, and only by constantly hanging around him could he actually catch many of Leonard's old fiddle tunes. While Lundy turned out to be a great fiddler, he never really tried to make a living with his music. He just played for his own pleasure. He was known to have the habit of picking up the fiddle at night, right after supper was over, a practice routine he continued to enjoy even into his old age. He worked mostly as a farmer, but like most old-time musicians featured on this channel, he did a number of different jobs. He was also a blacksmith, a violin and watch repairman, and even a dentist, although he just referred to this job as, quote, pulling teeth. Now, Emmett was a member of the Primitive Baptist Church, which is a denomination which doesn't look favorably upon the use of instruments. But Emmett refused to believe that there was any real harm in the old devil box. However, his religious devotion may explain why he never played for any dances, public appearances being mostly made up of various community events such as celebrations, work gatherings, and even fiddlers' contests. And he is reputed to have won the first ever prize ever presented at the Galax Fiddle Contest, bringing home the nice $10 gold piece. Lundy never performed with a band, but he did collaborate on music at home with several other musicians who lived nearby. According to accounts, these jam sessions would go on, some rumored to have lasted up to 48 hours. Now, Lundy did have one commercial recording venture, and it involved one of the most well-known Grayson County musicians of the time, Ernest Stoneman. Stoneman chose Lundy to travel with him to New York for a recording session for the OK label in 1925. A family member recalls that the Lundy household was pretty excited about Emmett's trip and his opportunity to make some records. So on May 27th, Stoneman and Lundy recorded 2 harmonica fiddle duets, Piney Woods Gal and Flop-Eared Mule, although they called it Long-Eared Mule. However, these would be the only 2 commercial recordings that Lundy would release in his lifetime. Turns out that when the record was released, Lundy didn't care much for their sound. He felt the fiddle couldn't be heard well enough, and I'll have to agree with Lundy on this one. Give it a listen. As you can hear for yourself, the mix isn't great, and the harmonica just pretty much overpowers the fiddle playing. Well, after this session, Lundy declined to pursue his recording career any further. He was already 61 years old at the time, and it looked like Lundy's recording career was finished for good. That is, until 1941, when the legendary folk music collectors Alan and Elizabeth Lomax arrived at Lundy's home to make some recordings for the Library of Congress. In addition to this recording of Flop-Eared Mule, they recorded almost 24 samples from the historic Lundy repertoire. And these are all just great numbers. It's not a smooth or pretty sound, but it is beautiful in its rawness, and it helps open up a window for us today to an earlier world of Appalachian old-time music. Okay. So if Flop-Eared Mule is in the Lundy repertoire, we know the tune must be pretty old. Which brings us to the question, where did this song come from? Now, I mentioned before that the rhythm of this tune is not like most traditional American fiddle tunes. And if you play this at a square dance, well, God help you, because the dancers won't know what to do either. But that doesn't mean it's not a dance tune. It in fact is a dance tune, but one with a very different origin. Enter the Schottische, or Schottish, as it's sometimes pronounced. Many music historians believe that the source of Flop-Eared Mule actually came from a tune or group of tunes called the Detroit Schottische, and there are many variations of this melody. It was composed by a man named Adam Kaus way back in 1854, and it was a big hit at the time, because he eventually sold an astounding 100,000 copies of it, and it was even republished abroad as well. Now, Kaus was a dancing master and a music store owner in Detroit, Michigan. For many years, this downtown store, established in 1844, was the only music store in the whole city. He was originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he was actually acquainted with Stephen Foster's family, and Foster even dedicated a ballad to Kaus entitled "The Voice of Days Gone By." Here's a recording of the Detroit Schottische. As you can make out, the melody is super similar to Flop-Eared Mule, and it even has that similar strange rhythm feel to it. Okay, so that's the source of the song. But what actually is a schottische, and why is the rhythm so unusual? The schottische falls in the category of what some dancers call a round dance, as opposed to a square dance. And like the old-fashioned polka, schottisches were danced by couples. Some even refer to the schottische as a slow polka. But it's not really a polka. The polka rhythm goes more like oompa oompa, but it doesn't go like that. And it doesn't go like a straight American reel of 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes more like 1, 2, 3 hop, or 1, 2, 3 stop. And that fourth beat does make you stop. If you watch these dancers performing this schottische, it may make more sense. You can count along with the 1, 2, 3 hop, and notice that the rhythm basically forces the dancers to stop the forward motion on that fourth beat. Now, the origin of the schottische is pretty wild, and it's a whole video in itself. And on first impression, you may think, oh yeah, schottische must have been from Scotland, right? Well, no. The name actually comes from Germany. That's right, folks, Germany. And when I first found this out, I was like, oh yeah, of course, the melody of Flop-Eared Mule does sound like a German folk song. Now, from Germany in the 1800s, it was brought to Paris, then New York, and from there it spread throughout the US and remains a popular dance in America even to today, especially among the German Americans in the Midwest. Now, the reason why the Germans came up with the title of Schottische was because they had adapted this dance from another part of Europe, and no, not Scotland, but from Bohemia, that region in Central Europe that was then in the Austrian Empire. And in Bohemia, it was performed a little faster. And because the Germans slowed it down in what they considered a more Scottish style, well, they called it a Schottische. And I told you the history was a little bit crazy. Now, while the Schottische was super popular in America, it also spread to other countries as well. The dance itself could be found all over the globe, from Argentina and Paraguay to Finland, France, Italy, Norway, even the Philippines. And that melody, which we call Flop-Eared Mule, turns up overseas as well, not just in Germany, but also in the British Isles. The tune turns up in Ireland as the Curlew Hills. Give it a listen. And in England, there's a song called The Blue Bell Polka, which is also surprisingly similar to Flop-Eared Mule. Okay, now this is where things get a little more wild in tracking down an old fiddle tune. So most historians ultimately trace this melody to Bohemia in Central Europe and just stop there. But I was able to dig up a little, not much, but a little theory that it may actually have ultimately come from even further east. And this is the crazy part, because while I couldn't confirm much documented sources on this, I did find a song from even further east that does have a striking similarity to Flop-Eared Mule. It's a Carpatho-Russian tune called Daubush Kozak, and yes, the song's title is referring to a Cossack. Now, the Carpatho-Russian area lies in an area that includes parts of Slovakia, Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Ukraine. And here's a recording I found from a Ukrainian music band performing this song. I'll play Flop-Eared Mule followed by Daubush Kozak and see if you can make out a similarity. Well, that kind of blows me away, and I don't even know what to say. And when I first played this tune at home, my wife, who was at one point a professional Eastern European folk dancer, said, "Why are you playing one of my old Ukrainian folk songs?" I said, well, it's a long story, and I don't even remember how I got here. So just watch the video when it comes out. Okay, folks, I'll just leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed this one, and once again, thanks for listening.